Welcome back to Future Stars. So, I've been looking at different things on X, and I noticed that Liverpool are being linked with Hector Fort. Now, this kid is Barcelona right back. He looks like a real good player, to be honest. And apparently, Barcelona want between 15 and 20 million euros for him. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Future Stars deep dive. So it's similar to my normal scouting department, but I'm going to do it because the lad's only 20. I'm going to do it as a Future Stars. So this lad's been linked. I don't think personally that it's going to happen, but it's not about that. This is the deep dive into this kid. So let's get started. Today we're heading to Barcelona because there is a young defender coming onto the radar of several clubs across Europe, and Liverpool are reportedly one of them. His name is Hector Fort. He's 20 years old. He's a product of La Masia. He's already played first team football for Barcelona. He's played in the Champions League. He's spent a season in La Liga with Elche. And he's now potentially available this summer. So today we're not going to tell you Liverpool are signing him, because they're not. Instead, we're going to answer a much more interesting question. Who actually is Hector Fort? And could he become a Liverpool player in the future? Fort was born in Barcelona in August 2006 and joined the Barcelona Academy as a youngster. He spent years coming through La Masia before making the jump into senior football. And his first team debut for Barcelona came in December 2023 in the Champions League against Royal Antwerp. That's quite an introduction to senior football. You're 17 years old and suddenly you're playing Champions League football for Barcelona. Since then, Fort has made 24 La Liga appearances for Barcelona. 9 of them starts, totaling just over 900 minutes, and has 2 assists in those appearances. He's also played for Spain through the youth levels, including the under-17s, 19s and under-20 teams. So this isn't some completely unknown academy player. He's already been tested at a very high level. Naturally, Fort is a right back, but this is where things get interesting. He's also capable of operating on the left side, and that versatility has been one of the recurring features of his development. At 1.85 metres, he's also a relatively big fullback compared with some of the smaller, more traditional technical fullbacks Barcelona have produced. And that comparison is interesting. Size, technical ability, positional flexibility, La Masia education. That's a pretty good starting package. Let's look at his time at Barcelona. Across his 24 La Liga appearances, Fort has 24 appearances, 9 starts, 903 minutes, 2 assists, 19 tackles, 14 tackles won, 11 interceptions and 17 clearances. Now, before anybody gets carried away, those numbers need context. He wasn't a regular starter. Barcelona are using him as a developing squad player. So we're not looking at the numbers of an established elite fullback. We're looking at a young defender being introduced to first team football. The Elche loan. And this is probably the most important part of his development. Barcelona sent Fort to Elche for the 25-26 season. The purpose was obvious. Get him playing senior football. And he did produce some interesting numbers. In La Liga, Fort made 14 appearances, 7 starts and 482 minutes. He scored 2 goals and provided 2 assists. That's 4 goal contributions from a defender in just 482 minutes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's proof he's an elite attacking fullback. It isn't. The sample is far too small, but it is interesting. And it tells us that there is attacking potential there. What does he actually do well? This is where Future Stars gets interesting. because we're not just looking at statistics, we're looking at what kind of footballer he could become. First, technical ability. Fort has come through La Masia. That means he's been developed in an environment where technical security and possession football are fundamental. He's comfortable receiving the ball, he's comfortable moving it, and he's capable of stepping forward rather than simply playing safe passes backwards. That's important for Liverpool. Second, positional intelligence. Fort's development has involved him operating across different defensive positions. He's primarily a right back, but his ability to play on either side gives his manager another option. And for Iraola, that could be extremely useful. But Liverpool's fullbacks aren't simply going to be defenders. They're going to be part of the attacking structure. The Iraola connection. This is where I think Liverpool becomes particularly interesting. Andoni Iraola's football demands a lot from his fullbacks. They need to understand when to push forward, when to hold, when to overlap, and when to move inside. And when possession is lost, they need the athleticism to recover quickly. Fort's profile has some of those ingredients. He's technically educated, he's comfortable moving forward, he's versatile, and he's young enough that Iraola's coaching staff could potentially mould him. That's the attraction. We're not necessarily buying the finished product, we're buying the potential to build one. His attacking potential. One of the things that caught my attention from the Elche season is the fact that Fort wasn't simply contributing defensively. 2 goals, 2 assists, again, small sample, but his attacking involvement is something worth watching. The scouting reports from his Elche season also highlight his overlapping runs and crossing. And that's exactly where modern football has evolved. They're effectively extra midfielders and wingers at different points of the game. If Fort continues developing his final ball, that could become a significant part of his game. But there are weaknesses. Now let's slow down, because this is future stars, not future Ballon d'Or. Fort still has a lot to prove. The biggest issue is inexperience. He's played 24 La Liga matches for Barcelona. That's good, but it's not 100. He's played only 14 La Liga games for Elche. That's not enough to say we've seen the finished product. Consistency is another question. He's still developing, and that's why Barcelona were willing to send him out on loan. The next stage is turning flashes of quality into week in, week out performances. And then there's physical adaptation. Coming into English football is different. The pace, the intensity, the physicality, the number of games, the aerial battles. That's something we simply can't know until he actually plays in England. So Liverpool would have to be patient. Why is Barcelona letting him go? This is another fascinating part of the story. Fort has been viewed as one of Barcelona's promising young fullbacks, but Barcelona have enormous competition in those positions. And the current reporting suggests Fort's pathway at the club has become less clear, with other young players now competing for that long-term role. That's why a permanent departure is now being discussed. And this is where Liverpool potentially see an opportunity, because Barcelona might be willing to sell a player that Liverpool could develop. The 17 million question. Now let's talk money. The reports circulating around his story suggest Barcelona wants somewhere between 15 to 20 million euros, depending on the exchange rate. That's approximately 13 to 17 million pounds, depending on exchange rate. And if that valuation is accurate, this is where Fort becomes extremely interesting, because Liverpool wouldn't be spending 60 million. They wouldn't be buying a finished superstar. They'd be investing around 13 to 17 million in a 20-year-old former Barcelona first-team defender. Transfer Market currently puts his market value at around €12 million, so the reported 15 to 20 million euros asking range would represent a premium, but not an outrageous one for a young player with his background. And that, for me, is the big question. Is the upside worth the investment? I think it could be. Where would he fit at Liverpool? If Liverpool signed for, I wouldn't expect him to immediately become Liverpool's undisputed starting right back. That's unrealistic. I'd see him as competition, depth, development and potentially a long-term starter. And that distinction is important. Liverpool don't necessarily need another player who has to walk into the team on day one. They need players who can grow into the team. The KOA Future Stars scorecard. Technical ability, 8. Tactical intelligence, 8. Versatility, 8.5. Attacking potential, 7.5. Defensive ability, 7. Physical profile, 7.5. Current level, 6.5. Potential, 8.5. Premier League readiness, 6. Value at 15 to 20 million euros, 8. Overall Future Stars rating, 7.7. My final verdict. So Hector thought, would I sign him for Liverpool? I'd seriously investigate it. Not because I think he's already the next Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's not. Not because I think he's guaranteed to become a Premier League star. He's not. He's La Masia educated. He's already played Champions League football. He's played for 24 times in La Liga for Barcelona. He's had a season of senior football at Elche. He can operate on both sides. He's technically comfortable and there is clear room for development. If Barcelona really are prepared to sell for somewhere around 15 to 20 million euros, then this is exactly the type of calculated gamble Liverpool should be looking at. Because Future Stars isn't about finding the player who is already world class. It's about finding the player before he becomes world class. And Hector thought, he's one I'm definitely keeping an eye on. That's it for another episode of KOA Future Stars. That's it for now. Take it easy.